Why Teddy Roosevelt's daughter was banned from the White House. Alice Roosevelt was a true rebel. She publicly drank and smoked. She kept a pet snake named Emily Spinach. She buried a voodoo doll of Nellie Taft in the White House front yard. Teddy Roosevelt once said,
"I can do one of two things. I can be president of the United States, or I can control Alice Roosevelt."
So he chose to be president. Alice Lee Roosevelt was the eldest of Theodore Roosevelt's children. She was his only child with his first wife, Alice Hathaway Lee Roosevelt. Days after Alice was born, in 1884, her mother died. Teddy's mother died the same day. 26-year-old Teddy took it very hard. He retreated to his North Dakota ranch to heal. Baby Alice was left in the care of his sister, Anna, in New York. Teddy returned 2 years later and married Edith Kermit Caro. Teddy and Edith had 5 children together. They also raised Alice. But Alice never got along with her stepmother. In fact, her relationship with Teddy was also strained. Alice felt he preferred her other siblings over her. No wonder she grew up so rebellious. When Roosevelt was elected president in 1901, Alice was 17. She was introduced to DC society at her debutante ball. The ball was held at the White House in 1902. She wore a gown of what became known as Alice Blue. This sparked a new color trend in women's clothing. In 1920, Alice Blue gown would even become a hit song on Broadway. Obviously, the public loved Alice. The girl openly flouted the norms of the era. She walked around with a pet snake in her bag. She smoked cigarettes, which distressed her dad. Teddy been smoking in the White House, so Alice began going up to the roof to smoke. It was technically outside. Alice enjoyed drinking, gambling, and riding in fast cars with boys. She attended hundreds of parties. Remember, this isn't the 1950s we're talking about. For the early 1900s, this was scandalous behavior. But scandal makes for good press. The newspapers dubbed her Princess Alice. She was interviewed as if she were a celebrity.
I must admit, a sense of mischief does get a hold of me from time to time. I'm a hedonist. I have an appetite for being entertained.
Alice Roosevelt. At one point, Alice left a tack on a representative's chair. He leapt up with a yelp, much to her amusement. But in 1909, the Roosevelts had to leave the White House. Alice hated it, so she made a voodoo doll of the new president's wife. She buried the doll of Nellie Taft on the front lawn. William Howard Taft was enraged when it was discovered. Alice was banned from visiting the White House. His successor, Woodrow Wilson, banned her again. The reason? Alice publicly called him a way-blooded schoolmaster. Alice married and lived a long life. She was friends with almost every U.S. president. A hard-line Republican, she made an exception for JFK. The Kennedys, Alice said, showed her how amusing and attractive Democrats could be. She was friends with Nixon and Ford, but refused to meet Jimmy Carter. In Alice's eyes, he lacked social grace. She died in 1918, 8 days after her 96th birthday.
I've always believed in the adage that the secret of eternal youth is arrested development.
Alice Roosevelt Longworth, 1884 to 1980.